Representative Sherman out of California is calling for a bill to ban US citizens from buying cryptocurrencies. What? That is crazy. Look, we're going to play the video first and then we're going to break this down for you guys.
I look for colleagues to join with me in introducing a bill to outlaw cryptocurrency purchases by Americans so that we nip this in the bud, in part because not an awful lot of our international power comes from the fact that the dollar is the standard unit of international finance and transactions. Clearing through the New York Fed is critical for major oil and other transactions, and it is the announced purpose of the supporters of cryptocurrency to take that power away from us, to put us in a position where the most significant sanctions we have on Iran, for example, would become irrelevant. So whether it is to disempower our foreign policy, our tax collection enforcement, or our traditional law enforcement, the purposes of cryptocurrency, the advantage it has over sovereign currency is solely to aid in the disempowerment of the United States and the rule of law.
Now let's keep it real. This guy has been a hater of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for a long time, but sadly he is an elected government representative for some reason. How do we keep electing the biggest asshats in society to political office? Something's definitely broken with the way we govern ourselves. Now please note that this video will be very critical of US government policies, but remember, I love American people, so please do not interpret anything that I say here as some kind of an assault against your identity if you are in the US. The truth is that our governments betray us all. Your government is not your friend. Anyway, let's unpack the cited reasons that he gives here. The first is that crypto undermines the petrodollar. Yes, it does. The dollar is an economic weapon. Bitcoin is economic freedom. The government doesn't really want you to have freedom. The petrodollar is propped up by massive inflation, insurmountable debt, and constant war in order to secure more resources to prop the dollar up, maintaining the power and the relevance of the petrodollar has resulted in untold bloodshed and suffering around the world. Many people understand this fact, and they know that this is why we must move away from the petrodollar. The fact that this is his number one reason to outlaw crypto is incredibly telling of the reality of the effect that Bitcoin is having on the establishment. And at the highest levels of government, Bitcoin is starting to cause real concern. This kind of makes me feel super bullish if it wasn't that they're talking about, banning Americans from buying crypto. Now, the second reason, crypto undermines the tyrannical sanctions regime. Sanctions are politically motivated weapons of financial tyranny. They cause extreme hardship for our fellow human beings, and they have historically killed hundreds of thousands of people. They have a horrible track record of actually having the intended effect of, regime change and all that stuff. Now, he is actually sending a fairly clear signal to countries like Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, who are, of course, the top recipients of US sanctions. And the signal is, we are worried about your moves to circumvent our tyranny with cryptocurrency. And they have been making moves to do just that. And that we are going to try our hardest to stop you from succeeding. The reality is that there is a very, very dirty game being played right now for control of the world's oil markets. You can deny that reality if you want, but it's happening today. And the sanctions regimes are a big part of that equation. It is no mistake that the US is either allied with the top oil producers, has invaded the top oil producers, or has sanctions on the top oil producers. This move only reinforces to countries like Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, and of course many others that are suffering under this regime, that Bitcoin may be your only ticket to escaping the shackles of the petrodollar. It is no mistake, of course, that Saudi Arabia banned Bitcoin last year. The petrodollar equals control. Bitcoin equals freedom. Realize this, then realize which one the government is choosing and why. The next one he brings up is taxes. Oh, taxes, good times. Actually, Bitcoin could be very taxable, but I understand why Americans might want to, casually avoid paying taxes, considering that most of the discretionary budget in the United States goes to feeding the war machine, along with, of course, subsidies for some of, the world's most profitable companies in the history of the world, and that the world's biggest corporations are able to have a web of dark money that buys politicians and allows them to offshore profits while onshoring losses. Remember, folks, socialism for the rich, capitalism for the poor. That's how the system works. The reality is that crypto would make all government spending, all those political donations, all those tax obligations of corporations completely transparent. And that's actually one of the last things that they want. They love the shades of gray area. Remember, governments only care about preserving their own power. Your freedom is only relevant when it is convenient for the government to allow you bits of freedom and it suits their interests. The question we really need to ask, though, is this actually going to happen? I kind of really doubt it, but I would be surprised by nothing, considering the way the world works today. Also, if we see an increased interest from Russia or Iran or others to actually use cryptocurrency more, particularly Bitcoin, to transact around US sanctions, then the wagons may indeed be circled to protect the petrodollar. Should this happen, it would be devastating beyond belief for the crypto economy. Imagine if 3 of the world's biggest economies, that being China, which has already come down on it, India, which is considering it, and the US, which is now talking about it, all ban crypto. The US in particular has been a stronghold for the crypto industry. Many of the world's biggest exchanges are based in the US. Most trading is done using the US dollar. Many of the most influential crypto investment funds are based in the US. Many of the biggest crypto companies are based in the US. A massive amount of crypto innovation is happening in the US. Some of the biggest institutional momentum that we have seen anywhere in the world is happening in the US. That's Fidelity. That's backed, guys. They're in the process right now of trying to launch industry-changing services. And then, of course, we have the CME Bitcoin futures markets, which have been incredibly substantial, especially recently. If this were to happen, it would set our industry back big time. If, of course, it actually happens. Now, obviously, it wouldn't kill the industry, but we might finally see that $1,000 Bitcoin that some people have been talking about. Because, remember, they can't actually shut Bitcoin down, but outlawing Americans from buying it would be devastating for the markets and be very game-changing for the industry overall. Also worth keeping in mind that if such measures were to actually pass in the United States, then I could easily see them putting pressure on countries like Japan to try and outlaw the industry there as well. The US recently threatened Japan with sanctions if Japan does not stop buying Iranian oil. Think about that. You think they won't push for Japan to ban crypto should it suit their needs? Of course they would. But actually, more than anything, what I hear from Representative Sherman when he makes these statements is admitting that they actually fear Bitcoin. I mean, one part of me feels incredibly bullish that, hey, they're taking such a big notice of Bitcoin. It kind of reminds me of that old saying, the first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. We may be at this point moving past the laugh at you stage of this. Just think, of course, of all the big hitters who've been out there trashing Bitcoin on a regular basis, from famous investors to politicians and all kinds of other people. The ridicule has not worked to scare investors away. People still want Bitcoin. In fact, they want it more than ever. We as a community need to rally the troops here. If you are in the US, call your local representative. Ask for their position on cryptocurrency. Tell them to oppose any such bill. Explain the economic incentives for America being the leader in this industry. I am sure that our industry leaders will be out there making vocal opposition to any such bill should it actually take form and come to a legislative process. There has been so much positive legislation actually taking place, particularly at a state level in the United States. There are governors who are our allies, there are senators, there are congressmen, there are companies, and many more people who are out there on our side, who are on the side of freedom. We need to activate those people. We may be settling into the fighting stage here, guys, and it may take a long time to get through this stage. A final thought for you today. When Bitcoin is outlawed, then only outlaws will have Bitcoin. So then call me an outlaw, because I will have Bitcoin. For any unjust law that is passed is no law that a man of justice should follow. Anyway, just my two satoshis, guys. You will let me know what you think about this crazy story coming out of the US today down below in the comment section. As always, I super appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come over here and watch these videos. You guys are super, super awesome. Seriously, thank you so, so much. And of course, if you are new around here, you can always check out Cryptocurrency Explained, a free 5-hour course which tells you about how to invest in cryptocurrencies or recommend it to a friend if they want to know what all this crazy stuff is about. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.